For the Quran was revealed in accordance with the requirements of the intelligence. أُنزِلَ الْقُرْآنَ بِالْعَقْلِ. And the prophets were dispatched according to the requirements of the intelligence. بُعِثَتَ الْأَنْبِيَاء بِالْعَقْلِ. And they surpassed in their understandings the communities to whom they were sent. وَفَضَّلُوا عَلَى أُمَمِ بِعُقُولِهِمْ. How should we understand the problem of this preposition bi? Bil-aqli. It's difficult to translate. This is my attempt at considering all the possible meanings. What he's saying is that the Quran itself, the reason for its sending down had something to do with aql. That the sending of prophets itself is somehow directly linked to aql. And that the prophets themselves were far above their own communities according to the endowment of aql that they had. There are other statements like this attributed to other early authorities, like Wahb ibn Munabbih, who was beaten to death in the year 110. He's another early sage from Yemen. Sa'id ibn Jubair is famous. He's a very high reputation. Can we have the next, please? This is a statement attributed to the companion Al-Bara' ibn Azib. And again, we see a theme that's common in these early aql utterances or aqwal. This is not a prophetic hadith. This is a statement by a companion. Most Muslim authorities would say the companion was so well informed about the Prophet's teaching that he reflects the intent of the Prophet or the inner teaching of the Prophet through his own statement. He's not adding something that the Prophet would not have agreed with, right? But we cannot say this is what the Prophet said. This is what Bara' ibn Azib said, okay? And even to accept the attribution to Bara' would require a close examination of the isnad, which we're not going to do here. The faithful among mankind, al-mu'minun, they strive and exert themselves. Here are the words jad and juhud, in obedience to God in proportion to the measure, ala qadri uqulihim, to the measure of their innate inborn intelligence and reason. So the greater of them in acts of obedience to God is the more amply endowed with intelligence. أَعْمَلَهُمْ بِالطَّاعَةِ اللَّهِ أَوْفَرَهُمْ عَقْلًا. This is a very interesting statement also. It can be equaled and supported by many other such statements from the same era, late 1st century. Here we have the idea that religious intelligence or spiritual intelligence or moral intelligence, by the way, those are modern terms too. You know, they've been resuscitated recently in the field of cognitive studies. People are searching for new concepts to describe what intelligence is beyond the IQ or general quotient of intelligence, which had been the reigning concept recently. The idea being that the more endowed you are with innate intelligence, then if it properly functions and you respond properly to divine guidance, you would be enabled to do greater acts of obedience and deeds of virtue, and thereby you would earn a higher reward. Already in this, we can see the seed of a doctrine which appeared a century and a half later, called the doctrine of the saints, al-awliya. But that would take more time. Maybe we'll have a chance to look at it later. So these are some of the features of intelligence that we can glean from these early statements. There is a direct proportion between the efforts of an individual who receives understanding and the measure of understanding they receive. In fact, this is the basic doctrine of the school of the Qadarites in early Islam, notably of Hassan al-Basri in the 1st century. Can we go to the next, please? Now we have a number of early writings. This is something that's generally not known among Muslims, that within the 2nd and early 3rd century there were at least 6 or 7 books that were written, compilations of statements, hadith, utterances, aqwal, proverbs, wise sayings, all dealing with aql. Only 2 have survived. The earliest one that survived was written by the Sufi sage Al-Harith ibn Asad al-Muhasibi, who died in 243 in Baghdad. And slightly later than him, the tutor to the Abbasid caliph's son, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Dunya, his book Kitab al-Aql wa Fadluhu, the book on intelligence and its surpassing merit, is also extant. The first one is a theological meditation by the Sufi Muhasibi. The second is